We need an auditorium.
It's a big group today. Thank you all for joining us.
No visitors issues, Sandy? Nobody signed up?
No pre-registered.
So we'll move right to administration, previous meeting minutes, November 6th, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Second. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Officer nominations, right?
Yes, so we're a little informal on this, but I have spoken to Steve and Chris if they were willing to continue to serve as our chair and vice chair. If that is acceptable to the group, we just need a nomination from the floor. If anybody else is interested, we'll of course honor that nomination as well. Anyone willing to nominate Steve and Chris to continue on as chair and vice chair? Sharon?
Second.
And Andrew.
Nation in a second. Do we need a vote?
Now we need a vote.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you.
And thank you very much, both of you, for serving. We appreciate it.
Okay, on to action items. Where are we, Sandy? We have a resolution support revised NISDOT pavement condition targets.
Yes, so we have this Zoom set up here for our virtual attendees. So yeah, we have actually two resolutions today. The folks listening in should be seeing the screen as well. The first resolution relates to, there's several federal performance measures for which the MPO has to either adopt the targets that are set by DOT or we set our own. Due to a number of reasons, our MPO tends to adopt the state's targets. The two topic areas we're covering today are pavement condition targets, which is actually an adjustment on the targets, and I'll show you on this little table here. For pavements, we look at the interstate system, whether it's in good or poor condition. And then we look at the percent of pavements on the non-interstate national highway system. So think of your major arterials like your central avenues and these kinds of roadways that are in good or in poor condition. The DOT collects this data and we had a baseline of the percentages that you can see here. Just looking at interstates, 45% were good back in 21 and a little less than a little over 1% were in poor. And then each 2-year period, the DOT sets targets to make progress on improving the condition of the pavement. What was interesting for recent years, and maybe the DOT staff can elaborate on this, there were some changes in the pavement management system within DOT that resulted in some new data. So comparing year to year has been a little problematic, I guess is the simplest way to put it. So the department has decided to adjust the 2025 target. I know it looks like it's going downward, but it's more of an adjustment reflecting this new data and the new data set that is internal to DOT. And I don't know if any of the DOT staff could further elaborate on the complexities of that. I'm looking at Greg.
Without getting in the weeds, they keep tweaking exactly how the ratings happen. So it creates noise in the data, which is kind of reflected here. You look from 2021 to now, we're still showing improvements, just not as much of an improvement. Across the board, still either holding steady or slightly improved, which I guess is what we're shooting for.
Any targets right to the 10th of a percent, instead of.
Oh, yeah.
It's like right to the 10th.
Right to the 10th.
Interesting.
So we're seeking your approval to recommend to the policy board that they approve this revised planning target or performance measure target, I should say, for 2025.
This is a requirement of.
This is a federal law requirement.
How do we compare something that?
So there is a national data set, maybe Nicole, you
Well, I
can
don't
talk about that if you want to briefly.
Well, Gotham is usually our performance measure person, so he would be most clear more, but yeah, there is a national data set. And we do look at all of these for all the MPOs. Whenever we do our cert reviews as well, we try and see how well your planning and your projects are contributing to meeting these targets, not just in pavement, but in safety. There's also some transit related performance measures as well. It's kind of a way for us to get a baseline across the country. And typically, as Sandy said, there is the option to set your own targets, but most folks choose to adopt the state targets. It makes it a little bit easier, a little bit more easier to track the data and make sure it's kind of consistent across the state and across the country.
Thank you. So we need a motion to approve the revised pavement condition targets.
Correct.
Can we get a motion for that?
Aaron?
Get a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Right.
For the discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, thank you, motion carries. Second one, Sandy, another support, but this is safety
Yeah.
targets.
So safety is a category of performance measures that we do actually annually have to adopt targets. Just as a reminder, we have 5 performance measures related to the number of fatalities, rate fatalities, the number of serious injuries, the rate of injuries, and then the number of non-motorized fatalities and non-motorized serious injuries. So the state sets targets on an annual basis, like I said. And just for illustration purposes, you can see the adopted targets from 2024. And this is the adopted proposed target for 2025. So we're seeking again your endorsement of the new target and recommend policy board approval. Who's will make that motion?
Motion,
Okay.
second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries, thank you. All right, moving on,
Thank you.
object updates, right?
So now for the fun stuff. So we've spent a lot of time the last few weeks as a staff working with sponsors of the existing projects to try to get a handle on where things stand with all of our existing 2022, 2027 TIP projects. We think we have pretty good information now, but there's a lot of actions that we need to take today. That will allow us to pull all this data into a single data set and then be able to tell you at our next meeting what we have available to program anything new. So I'm gonna take this piece by piece. And if you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. I'll prompt Steve here if he needs the prompting, just to remind him of where we need to take actions today on the different categories. We try to divide up all of the tip data into these different categories, and I'll walk through them one by one, and we'll kind of act on them as we move along. So the first category of projects, which we did revise as of yesterday afternoon, these are projects that are proposed to roll off the tip. So these are projects that have either been completed, the construction's been obligated, or the sponsor has said, we're not pursuing this project at this time, and so we're gonna remove it from the tip. And so for those reasons, we do need to act on the actual physical removal of these projects from the tip. There's about 50 to 55 projects, I believe, in this list. So this is our good news story, that these are projects that are getting done, so a lot here. If you have any questions about that, let me know, but the action we'll need today is to approve the removal of these projects from the tip.
We're not gonna go through this, right?
I don't know if you want to go through it,
No, I mean,
if
it's
there's
an
a lot of
awful lot.
projects,
Sponsors
so.
have looked at the list, right?
We did send everything to the sponsors in advance of the meeting.
And
Hey Sandy, the room's on mute.
Were we on mute the whole time?
Just started.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
So all the sponsors have said, yeah, this budget is a good budget.
Yes, as far as we know, sitting here today, some of these projects, I should say upfront, haven't even started yet because they were in the outer years of the new tip or the existing tip, I should say. So in some cases, they just haven't even been initiated yet.
Okay, sponsors have all had a chance to roll in list, but he's good.
As far as we're aware.
Could you just slide through? the
Sure,
list?
absolutely.
Sandy, if you could share your screen again, I think you, it stopped sharing.
I didn't touch anything, so I, sorry about that. Something glitched out. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I think it just glitched out.
Okay, sorry. Are you seeing it now?
Yeah, we're good. Thanks.
Great, thanks. So again, this is the roll-in list. I'll zip down here. This is all sorted on the PIN number, by the way. But we have a combination of state and local projects here.
So this did change from the emailing, so.
No, if anything changes, we made a couple of label corrections and we added in one project at the end. Maybe to the CVTA project we had in this year.
So on the roll-in, it's just coming in as originally programmed. So if we would request a modification to the year that's subsequent to this.
Right, so the if this list should at this point have no changes. What I'm trying to say is that the schedules are subject to change because of when we pull the data into the new tip. There's years 26 and 27 are so heavily programmed that we're gonna have to push construction out on a lot of these.
Because there's one that we have on there that we'd like to push out further.
Okay. Okay,
But that's a schedule issue that I could deal with.
we can deal with that.
later.
Which project is that?
Just the Federal Street.
The
Court,
Federal Street project, okay. We'll just make a note of that.
But that's design only, so.
Okay, got it. That's totally fine. Yeah, we can follow up with you. Yeah,
Project for the town.
Robert, is-
176-182. Hi, this. I didn't see it on the list.
Not going there, but it's-
oh, it's a minor amendment, yeah, there are projects that we're gonna get to that are,
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure.
this is,
before
this,
you had-
these are the ones that, like I
No
said,
change,
there's no changes
No
at this
changes.
point.
no fund source change, no budget change. no-
We have about 30 projects, I think 25 projects today that, this is why we're gonna have 25 amendments today to the existing tip, so your project's in that category.
That's what- that's good.
Just to know how imbalanced it is between those three projects on the bottom, making up the amount of. You know, I just to make sure everybody realizes, if you go to the bottom, if you're looking at numbers, it says $909 million. But if you
Oh,
add the
yes.
Thruway, the Livingston and the Bus Plus Red Line,
Correct.
that's $770 million.
Yeah, please keep in mind that it looks like we have $1 billion, I know we almost do, but 700 million of it is specific to Livingston. So, yeah, it's a big chunk.
Okay. Any questions? So we need a motion to approve this rolling
Yep.
list as presented by Sandy. Can I get a motion? Yeah, okay. Can I get a second? I'll take a second. Awesome.
Chris?
Any further discussion? Okay, everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Admin modifications.
Next list, so. Normally with admin modifications, we don't act and we just inform you of these changes. The reason we're including them today for action. Is because there's a few projects that we're not certain about the status of the obligation. Our intent is to make these changes following the meeting, once we clarify that information, but. There's probably 15 projects here with proposed schedule changes for the most part that we just need to verify. Some of the obligation, is that, Andrew, is that coming up.
Yeah, we can add Federal Street to this list too. That's only gonna be a schedule change for this line only. We'll add it to
Yeah.
this list. And we can begin executing these right after the budget committee meeting.
Sponsors have all had a chance to take a look at this. I'm assuming this is based on sponsor comments.
Yeah, we forwarded all of this, this week to the sponsors to review.
Questions? List. Do I need a motion to approve the administrative modifications? Can I get a motion? Second.
Share it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries, thank you. Moving right along. Now we're talking minor amendments. Sandy?
Correct. So in this packet, much like we do our normal tip amendment process, this is, at least in my time here, I don't recall us having this many projects moving from one tip to another with these significant changes. So we decided the easiest way to walk through it was to treat them all like tip amendments, because almost every one of these projects is amending our current tip as well as coming into the new tip. So we want to be able to amend our current tip with this data as much as possible. So that when we roll up the balances of fund sources through the month of January, we have the most up-to-date data, which will give us a better idea of what's available for programming new things. So we're gonna take this a little more informally than we normally would, in the sense that you're not going to see letters for each project, but we did create the typical grid that you see showing the changes, and all changes are highlighted in the yellow. So you can see that in this case, this is a Route 5 paving project for DOT. They're having a cost increase. And so, and the cost increase is about at a little over 1.5 million. So we're gonna need a motion to approve each of these amendments.
One at a time.
Either one, it's up to you folks, so we can walk through them all and do them one at a time. Or we can do them all as a whole at the end.
I would do them all. Yeah, unless there's someone that's opposed.
Right, and we can
Yeah.
adjust that as we go. So is that the comfort level of the group? Doing one as a group?
I
I mean, just go through them one at a time and do them all as a group, is that?
would think, I just didn't know.
You wanna ask if someone?
I don't want
needs
21
amendments,
motions. Right? I don't need 21 votes, just one vote on it. Right?
But ask if anything needs to be addressed prior to that vote, that way.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go through each,
Yeah.
go through each one.
Sure.
Is
You
there,
don't have to go through each way, you just say, as presented, is there anything that needs?
Well, let's say, unless you wanna go through, we got a total, what, I counted it up, about $24 million.
Yeah, many of them are cost increases, they're not all cost increases, so I just want to emphasize that.
yeah, I just, is there a summary?
No, and the reason we did some, I don't know what you mean by summary, like,
Like the
because
impact that, because these are cost increases.
we haven't had time to roll that.
No, I mean, I went through real quick, you got an HPP, it's 7.5 million, SDPG, it's.
No, I know, I just didn't know if
You know, I mean, that's,
we'd be able to see, because
it's a total of 23.7.
We'll have that for you guys for the next meeting. We wanted to just get through, these would have been amendments regardless. Of the update, so.
I just have one thing in the town of Development, Antioch Road, so just use the A.
Other than the drop off, okay, we'll fix that. Okay, so that's, a paving job for, NISA with the cost increase. Route 5. The next one is this is the Albany County portion of the same roadway with a cost increase. The other side was Schenectady County, obviously. Then we have a project from DOT to resurface
hold on, you're
890.
doing the whole thing?
Yeah.
The city, this line, the city line?
We're going to city line in 2 phases, yes.
Paving job on 890 from exit 25 to the Broadway Erie interchange. That's another cost increase. There's also a schedule change on this one. It's pushing this construction out to 29. City of Schenectady Franklin Street. This is a cost increase for the cycle truck. And we have City of Schenectady's Craig Street corridor, which is a combination of a complete street and a bridge project that the state is contributing toward. So there's a combination of things happening here. We are pushing the project out for construction to 27, and then there's some cost increases associated with the largely the complete streets portion of the project. Schenectady County's Rosendale Road. This is a project that originally was as an intersection improvement and a realignment. It's now been changed to a roundabout. So we have along with that change leads to a cost increase. So because it's a roundabout, we can use the Highway Safety Improvement Program funding for the cost increase, which is helpful since this was a CAC CMAQ project. And this will help keep this project whole, but it's a $2 million cost increase with the roundabout. Then we have City of Schenectady's Crane Street Bridge, which is a cost increase because it's a bridge project. We were able to assign for the increase in bridge formula program funds to this one. And we're pushing the schedule out a little bit. Well, actually, this is just a new phase. I'm sorry. It's just adding a new phase of the new fund source. We have Schenectady County's Musselback Road Bridge over the Sancy Hill. This is a minor cost increase, but because it's a Bridge New York project, we had to add funding through the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program to make the project whole. That's why it required action today. So we're adding a new phase with the new fund source to assign those funds to. For Rensselaer County, this is a Tamarack Road culvert project. This one also experienced a cost increase and a schedule change. We actually had to add in a new phase for detail design. And it's STP urban, so that's why it's just over the threshold of our amendments request. For the town of Wilton, this is the I'll call it a double roundabout intersection improvement. Which is proposed. It is a design only project on the tip currently. There is a application for a new project here for the actual construction piece. One of the things as a policy that we talked about with DOT, which came up on this particular one, and I'll just mention, for the design onlys, we can allow a right-of-way incidental phase, but we cannot include right-of-way acquisition because you need right-of-way. You can't have a right-of-way acquisition phase without a construction phase funded. So, just keep that in mind for design-only projects in the future. Because these are roundabouts, again, we could use the HSIP fund source for the cost increase. Which Greg assures us there's plenty of.
Yes.
This is another town of Wilton traffic safety and pedestrian connectivity project. It too was a CAC CMAQ project. So because of that, we had it's because these are roundabouts, we had to add highway safety improvement program funds to this. And we're shifting the construction out along with the proposed cost increase in the fund source change.
You're on it, 2027.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be 26.
Yes, we're shifting it out for program balancing.
Okay.
And then the way this will work is if the sponsors are able to move the projects along faster, we'll pull them in through admin. Yeah, so if you see, throughout this, the schedules, that's our strategy is parking construction in the outer years. If you guys move them, get them going, we can bring it in through admin. We don't even need to come for planning.
So the cost increase of like 0.288 million,
Mhm.
use a million in HSIP, so the cost increase, HSIP just doesn't cover the cost increase, you start taking CMAQ money away and that.
No, this uses all of the assigned CMAQ funding. The HSIP covers the cost increase.
Okay,
and reduces the burden on flex.
so when I saw H.
So you'll see like this section right here, we
Plus the
did some
H6.
fund source swaps to save some flex money.
Okay. Gotcha.
Village of Nassau, this is a TAP project. Because it's a pedestrian oriented project, we felt comfortable assigning the Highway Safety Improvement Program funds to this for the cost increase. Normally, these are TAP. The only other fund source we would have had available was the flex funds. But we feel pretty confident we can use the HSIP fund source on this one. So this is a cost increase at a new fund source. And we have the town of Providence. Oh, I did search it here. I think I caught that yesterday. No problem. But this is the town of Providence's a Bridge New York project. They ran into a pretty large cost increase on their replacement. Because it was again a capped project, the only fund sources it's eligible for is the flex funds. Hence why it's a minor amendment with this additional fund source change. Then we have the Coons Crossing Road Bridge over the Anthony Kill, Saratoga County. This one, we were proposing to use a little off-system bridge funding for this one. DOT, we don't usually have a reserve of off-system bridge specific to our MPO, but Region 1 has it for the 8 counties. So they were generously helping us keep this project whole by filling the fund source here with the off-system bridge, since it was such a unique project. And then back to DOT, we have a Route 67 bridge over the railroads. This is a cost increase, and they are pushing the schedule out to 2028. And this is another DOT project on Route 7 from 278 to the Talhana Reservoir. Same story. This is a cost increase and pushing the construction out to 29. And then another DOT bridge replacement project, the Route 396 bridge over the Queens Creek. This is another cost increase project using NHBP funds. And then back to the city of Schenectady, the Brandywine McClellan Street pedestrian improvement project. We are pushing the schedule out a year. And then there's some cost increase. I'll call it a minor cost increase related to the project.
We can continue to use exit.
That was done.
When we get to the final amount that is HF eligible, we can swap it back, but yeah,
I just,
yeah.
that would be probably.
So it's here because of the fund source switch.
Yeah.
Most of the money.
Right. And then we've got Schenectady Park Connector expansion. This one, we're proposing
Reduction.
to actually swap the large urban fund source with the carbon reduction funds. Because we're frankly a little concerned about the future of the carbon reduction program funding. We want to assign that funding to projects that we think are going to get built in this next year or two. So we're going to try to identify some other projects in our region so that we can assign that fund source to and get it spent before expiration date hits when the federal law expires in 2026. And then we are proposing this for 2027 construction, but Chris, again, same story, if you get it.
Yeah,
Move
yeah.
forward, you can move it in. We're back to Rensselaer County. This is the county route Parker, Zoom blinked out on me again. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I don't
Yes,
know why it
it,
just glitched again in here.
yeah, it shut down too.
Okay.
Yeah, just reshare and we're good now, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sandy.
So you should be seeing the major amendments virtual, folks.
All right,
Yeah,
so
we're
we
good. We're good.
Motion on the minor amendments, is that what we're looking for?
Yes, we
Can
still
I-
need a motion on the back.
Excuse me, can I get a motion to that effect? For minor amendment? Second. Any further discussion?
Sorry, who were the two we go? Oh, Tom and Sharon, thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, abstained. Motion carries onto the major.
Okay, so these are the major ones. We have 7 of these, but these were more significant, that all are gonna require policy board approval at our March meeting because we can't amend the tip without that action as well. And all the minor ones with your action today, we can go ahead and amend the current tip.
Remind me again what the threshold was.
For many of them, for the cost increases, if it's more than $3 million, it requires, policy board approval. There's a couple in this group that have some other situations that we'll talk about. This is one, actually, City of Albany, Central Avenue, Frisbee Avenue project. You may remember, for those who've been around for a while, this actually started as 2 individual projects. At some point along the line, the city thought it would be more efficient to bring them into one project. Since that time, as the city's been pursuing the design work on the Central Avenue piece, they've come to realize that that's a lot more complicated of a story than they probably realized at the time. And feel that they can move the Frisbee Avenue project along faster right now. So we're going to split them back out so that we can complete and obligate the Frisbee Avenue portion with a cost increase. And also we will add some money to the Central Avenue portion as it appears the construction is going to be higher than originally anticipated. So this is a combination of a cost increase as well as the split of the project back into 2.
So this is a cost increase because it's not listed on. the
Yeah, it's
table.
like 4.5.
Yep,
So it wasn't listed as a cost.
it should have been. I apologize if that was.
So that's 4.5 million.
Just curious.
Yeah.
For splitting the project, does that require policy board?
That's the why this is going to be a major action along with the cost increase. Yeah. The fortunate thing is we already had pins for these projects, so we can reuse the original pins. You want to take these as a group as well?
That would be my,
Do you want that? The next one is a DOT project. This is the Route 9 bridge over I-90 at exit 11.
I can explain this. It's $1 million.
Sure.
So it was originally scoped as simply a bridge replacement, but it's a cloverleaf interchange. So we're trying to redesign the interchange to be something more efficient, more modern and take away the cloverleaf and reduce our footprint. So as much as the cost increases, the future is to hope to have a smaller new bridge, which in the long term is a wiser investment. So right size the interchange and then shrink the bridge hopefully.
This thing.
Yeah, that's what we.
You think you can do this for $14 million?
I think so, yeah.
You'll also know that they're pushing that schedule out as well.
Right.
I know we're gonna.
It's a big interchange.
It's a spaghetti,
Yeah, that's a monster.
I mean, for those familiar with up north, we did this at exit 17 of the Northway. We took out the cloverleaf and consolidated the interchange.
It's a much tighter, smaller footprint.
Similar
It
idea.
actually functions more efficiently.
Similar idea here. We'll see you 2 years.
What's that?
See you 2 years.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on to another DOT project is a $5 million cost increase for Route 146 over 89. I will point out, we had discussed this project at a prior planning committee meeting because there's a fund source from the state called the National Highway Freight Program. For which funding is being assigned. At the time we took, we had discussion of it here at planning committee. It was proposed to get added to the state's plans. So this formalizes the amendment piece because we never actually added it to the tip.
So this is like new money.
I'll call it new money coming from
From freight plan.
the freight. plan.
So this actually doesn't impact the core fund.
Yeah. There was like 3 projects, I think, or something.
This is all.
Yeah, 146 over
Yeah.
80.
Yeah.
So
Um,
it's a net zero to the core
Yeah.
funding, but it's still
It's
an action.
Yeah,
timeline.
I got you.
right. And they are proposing to push the schedule out a year as well to balance the federal program. And that's,
It's just like, it seemed like the right of way costs were low, is there revenue required?
Not anticipated to be much, you know, we generally own a pretty good footprint around the interstates. So
I was just curious,
Yeah.
that's all.
No, appreciate it.
It's an awful bridge.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
This is a different Route 146 bridge, in Rotterdam over Chrysler Avenue, also a major cost increase. It too has the same kind of story, right? The NHFP fund source is being applied here. Schedule is shifting up, but the state is proposing to add additional NHPP funds to this one, so it's only 3 million of this, almost 6 is from the freight program funds.
And the challenge here is this bridge has to go a little higher due to the railroad and also crossings.
I said that here, we're not leading with that, there's 3 railroad.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to go about a foot higher to meet the current railroad standard, which is why hence the driver of the cost. of it.
Then the next one is, this is the exit 16 bridge up in Wilton. Similarly, it was awarded additional, it already had some of this freight plan funding assigned to it. It got additional funding assigned to it. As well as, the need for some additional NHPP funds. So this is an $11 million increase. But about 7 million is related to this increase from the freight program. The rest is NHPP. So it is one of our higher priced bridges to replace, but as you would know, if you know that area, desperately needed for freight. Movement. It does not function at all up there, so it's an exciting project. And you'll also note schedule has shifted potentially out to 29, but if it could be advanced, they'll move it back. That's for program balance. Village of Scotia, this is a Sunnyside Road Bridge over Amtrak. It was originally programmed using our large urban funds. Since that time, the department decided, or determined, I should say, that we can use NHPP on this bridge. Because it is eligible for those funds. And we're also pushing the schedule out a year, along with the $4 million cost increase. So this actually is a good news story in the sense that it frees up large urban funds for other project types. So this is a big savings for some of the more competitive fund sources.
I apologize. Why is this NHPP eligible now?
Any bridge on the federal aid system can use NHPP funds. It's a function of a couple highway bills. So you don't have to be on the NHS if it's a bridge. You just have to be on the federal aid system.
Okay.
So it's,
So technically like Crane Street Bridge, we were using the VHP, which is fine, but that could actually use an HPP now.
bridge formula is the same rule, bridge formula main has the same rule NHPP does, it has to be on the federal aid system.
Right.
So
So that the
And
two
bridge
sources
is
can,
federally
okay.
they're kind of interchangeable.
All right, good enough.
Same rule.
Yeah, it's helpful for us to know that too, because, and we'll go through this data, that's why I said at the beginning, fund source subject to change, we're gonna review, if we see an opportunity to do some of these swaps, we'll do it. Particularly for the more higher valued competitive fund sources like the large urban, which is super competitive. Next one is the Town of Rotterdam one. This is the Route 5S project that currently it's a TAP funded project. They had a cost increase, so we assigned some of the carbon reduction program funds to help fill that gap at that time. The town had opted to assign a large chunk of local funds to cover some of the difference. Since that time, we've determined that this funding can be flipped to federal aid because the cost increase is tied to what we believe to be safety related improvements. And so along with that fund source swap, we're proposing to push the schedule out a year, but again, same story. If it can be advanced faster, we can move it back. So this is on here because of that change from a non-federal to a federal fund source. That's a 7.
No,
Any questions, comments, concerns?
it's like 30 million in money, but 15 of it is the new freight, so half of it's the, I call it new money.
Yep,
Strategically trying
strategic
yeah.
money.
to not use all our core on stuff.
Any questions, comments? So we need a motion to approve proposed major amendments to the existing TIP.
Correct.
Can I get a motion for that?
So Lisa, thank you.
We have a second.
Sharon?
Sharon is leading the league in motion.
Nice
Second.
work.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? Abstain? Thank you.
Great.
All right, moving right along. CDTA,
CDTA.
transit projects.
So while we're primarily have spoken about the federal highway side of the TIP, we also need to address the Federal Transit Administration side of the TIP, which primarily is provided to CDTA as our regional transit provider, designated recipient. What you're seeing in this table is our estimate at this point of what the intent is for CDTA to assign their 5307 and 5339 program funds to some existing projects, we'll call it. I don't think there are anything new here, but it just sort of reloads these ongoing commitments we have to bus replacement, Star Bus, transit support, preventive maintenance, just sort of the routine pieces of the CDTA program. We do need just your approval to endorse rolling these into the new TIP. And there is a note you might remember, usually Melissa comes April, May, with a whole new realignment of funding because the federal transit side works a little differently than the federal highway side. And they get an official allocation usually after April 1st. Timelines.
Yeah, we usually come to the April meeting after the funding amounts are determined in the first quarter of the year, and then it's approved in our capital plan for how those funds will be spent that year. And then we do kind of an alignment to make sure all of that matches within the funding available.
Yeah.
These are the recurring projects that we typically fund each year: bus replacement, shelters, preventive maintenance.
So you may see us come back with an amendment in the spring just to adjust some of these figures if they should change. This is our best estimate based on the information we have submitted today. So we just need a motion to approve the roll-in of the CDTA MTA funded projects.
Can we get a motion to that effect? Chris, second?
Sharon?
Thank you again. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, abstained? Motion carries. So we are at the draft proposed, the regional set aside. So
Yes,
that's what we're contemplating, right?
correct.
Existing and new, that one.
Correct. So all of the actions we just took settled all of our site specific existing projects. With your comfort level today, we can act on the set aside, I'll call it reload of the existing set asides that we have. if you're not comfortable with that today, we can push this to the January 29th meeting. But we have the data to share with you as proposed. I'm sorry, this text is a little small. The existing set aside and block funded projects include the CDTA bus rapid transit project, which we are proposing to reload at the same level that we had in the current TIP. It also includes our CRTC project development support, and you'll note this is sort of a hybrid, I'll call it. It's an existing project with no net change to the funding proposal, but we're proposing to use $500,000 of this on our regional household travel survey, which would support the update of our regional travel demand model. So this is kind of regionally significant to us because I'll talk about it later. We are going to be expanding our regional travel demand model to go beyond the traditional 4 counties. We already talked to our friends up the Adirondack Glens Falls NPO, and we will be taking over their modeling services, particularly now that CDTA has provided service up there. We want to expand our model so that potentially as the region continues to evolve and change, our model can cover at least Washington and Warren County and maybe go beyond that depending on the data that comes for commute patterns in the ACS, the American Community Survey, as well as other things. So we are looking to update and expand our model, and so that set aside would cover that. But again, no net increase in the cost of it. That's just a change in the scope of what we'll be doing with those funds. We put a reserve here. We do have right now in our TIP the carbon reduction program, which you may recall we were using to help keep TAP projects whole, where a trail project had a cost increase and we could assign these funds to that type of project. We're reserving this right now with 0 funding only because as a placeholder. As I said at the beginning, we need to go back and look at where we can plug in those carbon reduction funds because we are concerned about the future of that fund source. So the more we can assign to live projects now, the better off we are. So that's just a placeholder in case we need it. The rest of these are DOT's block funded projects, which are always on our TIP, I'll call it. They handle things like multi-site pavement markings, signal replacements, the help truck program, the running the TMC, the Traffic Management Center, guide rail replacements, miscellaneous bridge preservation work, the culvert program, the multi-site pavement preservation work, overhead sign replacements, and this last one is sort of I'll call it one I just relatively new.
Yeah, we just had this.
Specific to roadway departure planning and replacing curb warning signs. And I think those were all of the existing set asides. So like I said, because we don't have all the balances, and I understand you may not be comfortable acting on these today, we do feel confident that these will easily fit into the program and will leave money on the table for new things. But I will leave it to your discretion of whether you want to act on this today or.
This is the existing.
These are the existing.
Well, existing extended out for the new TIP.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Any questions, comments?
I mean, for the DOT, which is the lion's share of this, the largest amount, we have slightly reduced the 5-year ask on the set asides. I say slightly. It was about 80 million last time, we were around 75 million this time, so we slightly reduced what we're asking for funds to try to not inflate the preservation portion.
Is most of that NHPP?
And the lion's share of what we ask for is NHPP.
I'll just scroll through this so you can see the fund sources, the large urban.
No, I know, it's
your comment.
my opinion would be, if it doesn't impact to wait, I would prefer to wait, but if there was an impact, anything that uses NHPP or your state dedicated funds. Or any of those things that most of us around this table wouldn't have any impact with, then those would be fine, but I would love to just know, there's STBG Flex on there. I would love to know what the requests are for that, because that's something that, specifically, there's 3.8 million right there in the middle for the pavement markings. You know, I'm glad that we did the actions that we prior did, because I think that'll help us move forward as a region with a lot of projects that are on the books. But if it's not necessary, I'd love to know what was proposed. Just to see what, and the only people I don't hesitate honestly is with the DOT, because you come in with so much anyways, that, you know, what does it matter? Project here, project there, doesn't matter, but there could be projects that I have no idea with from sponsors around the room. That don't have as much leverage with moving things off for offsets that you would.
Now, what's the rationale? I'll just use, you know, the. NISDOT traffic signal, you, an APP, and then use a small amount of SDVG flags. I mean, is that because some of the stuff's not eligible for NHPP and you precisely that, all right, so on the system, it wouldn't be eligible, so you need to use flags.
Yep. So signals off the NHS, have to use flags.
Same thing, NISDOT durable pavement markings, there would be nothing that you have to use flags.
Again, yeah, the striping roads that are off.
That are off, okay, so that's the rationale.
And pavement markings and things like that that are used to keep vehicles on the road, that wouldn't be HSIP eligible.
For maintenance, no. New, HSIP can only use for new things that keep vehicles on the road, other safety.
Greg, there's set asides, block set asides, these allow, you know, during the tip of locals call and say, hey, we have an issue on the section of state. It's a source that, because it's a set aside that the state can use, because they know there's certain signal replacements, guide rail that's gonna be replaced, you know, during that period. But this basically allows for those things to occur
Yeah,
throughout the
so,
life of the tip.
so what this is actually these are usually 8 county projects of the entire region. And this represents the proportion that will be spent in 4 counties to accomplish the work in all 8 counties. So again, like I said, it represents the portion of the 8 county spending here. But when we get complaints about, you know, we're gonna finally pave 146A, that comes out of block funds for pavement preservation. You know, that's where that comes from. So that's how we address these interim lower hanging fruit.
And I know we've benefited in the past with head signals on 146 when a pavement project came through that. You know, states that we have set aside money, so I know. While it's the state asking for the set aside indirectly, it's found to benefit. Throughout the life. So, yes.
From our perspective as staff, there's no urgency acting today versus waiting to the 29th. So if the group would prefer to wait to the 29th, just to see the net impact of all the actions we just took. And then you can see the impacts of adding these in. We're happy to do that. As I said, I feel pretty confident that we could easily fit these in along with still having money for new things.
I mean, I'm all right. It's an early action in the next meeting ahead of project selection.
Yeah, 100%. We would tackle this before we get into site specific projects.
If I'm fine with either path.
If that's tackled forward, how does it affect?
But
What you're
when we
looking
have
for.
when we have the information in the packet to look at before.
You can digest the impact it
Right.
has.
Yeah, so we'll be able to see.
Alright.
And once again, it's only certain items, like there's nothing here that would state that we don't want to do the ITS management system. I saw it out there. TMC, the TMC, right, it's NHPP, fine, the next one down, NHPP, SDF, HDF, I would just like to see the impact.
Sure. Okay,
So
so
that would be the consensus of the group.
Well, that's what I mean, it's we're working a group
Yeah.
consensus, so.
Is that- People comfortable with that? You know, staff doesn't have an issue with it, we can see the impact and take action next week.
that's,
So now would be the new set asides.
yeah, so I'll just review these. These are proposals. We were probably not gonna act on these today either, for the same reason that Chris is suggesting, but I will just explain what these proposals are. The first one is proposed frankly by our staff. As you guys know, we've been working on the Capital Region Vision Zero Safety Action Plan, which we expect to finish at the end of 2025. We'd like to have something in the tip to implement that, even a modest amount. So we're proposing a set aside of $2 million of the Highway Safety Improvement Program funding for future implementation of that Capital Region Vision Zero Safety Action Plan. The next one is actually, the next two are proposed by DOT. Maybe Greg, you would like to explain them?
So kind of parallel to the Safe Routes for All, we have a few years ago, we ran around the state system and did the pedestrian safety action plan, which upgraded every mid-block crossing to a new minimum standard. And then 50% of the signalized intersections got countdown timers, enhanced treatments, all that business. This is to, there are enhanced treatments in the federal highway toolbox where we recognize there are crosswalks that probably have, I'll call it, lower compliance of vehicles yielding to pedestrians. And so we'd like to run around with the enhanced toolbox to get clients at these crosswalks improved, be it raised curb islands, RFBs, potential hawks or signals, depending on the volume of the roads and the configuration. So this is to get after the design and hopefully implementation of multi-site pedestrian safety enhancements where they're needed. Sites to be determined, but we have some early ones in them.
And I just will interject that both of these safety proposals for all public roads. Right?
The state one is for state roads.
State roads,
Has to
okay.
be state delivered.
The SS4A one is for all public, perhaps maybe leaning local.
Right. Right, and that's a
But-
good idea.
I just wanted to clarify that, just so you're aware.
And then the signal set aside, it's a signal consultant set aside. We have our known hit list of congested corridors. And the low hanging fruit is to run around with some signal coordination, modern technology. Possibly adaptive, whatever the best available technology is to get after corridor coordination. And given resources, we'd like to get a consultant out to help with this effort. And this is intended not to be DOT only, but to be cross municipal boundary so that we don't stop at a city line. It's gonna require some coordination, MOUs and maintenance agreements and consistent equipment, but and I sound worse than I am. I'm on the other side of this. Pardon me. The intent of this one is to get after corridors regardless of municipal boundary.
So we're not looking to take any action.
No.
This is for the committee to just digest and the number here is less than 5 million.
Correct.
And most of it's HSIP.
So with that, in terms of where we're at on the agenda, we did not expect to get into programming the new candidate projects today, the site-specific ones, but Andrew, if you want to just sort of describe where we're at with that and the information we did provide.
Sure, I mean, if you wanted, you could show the sheet that we sent to Greg earlier.
I don't have that sheet.
Yeah, it's in the same folder, it's in the project scoring folder. But we got 61 applications for the new tip update. We've evaluated all of them. We shared the fact sheets with the mail out to planning committee. Last week, we got some feedback on the fact sheets. So thank you very much for taking a look at those. We for the projects and we reached out to DOT and we got their help with identifying what we feel is the best preferred fund source for each project. So we think that before the next meeting, what we'd like to do is roll up everything that got approved today and then come to the next meeting with our best estimate of how much funding will be available in each fund source. And then we'll use that along with this sheet you're seeing here, which the columns on the right have the preferred fund sources for each of the candidate projects. So at the January 29th meeting, we'll know, for example, how much block grant urban or NHPP we have available. And so we could use this chart to begin putting together a proposed funding program for the new projects to be drawn from the candidate projects from the solicitation.
This was not provided in advance. This is an internal working document. What we did provide in advance are all of the project fact sheets and a location map with all of the proposals, so folks can explore, take a look at the scoring. And they're organized by the project categories that you see in this column here. But there are. I think the breakdown was about 15, 16 DOT, about 14, 15 Saratoga County, and then. Probably less than 2 or 3 per sponsor.
Right.
Depending on the sponsor beyond that. I think Saratoga County had the most proposals.
So at the January 29th meeting, we'll have a much better idea of the available funding in each of the fund sources, right? So, we know we don't have much in one category, maybe we only pick 1 or 2 projects, but if we know we have a lot in a category, we can use this to select several projects.
So one thing to keep in mind when we get there, and I think you're already picking up on this, the category of the project isn't going to be as important as what the fund source eligibility is going to be. We do know sitting here today. It's just frozen. There it goes. That we feel very confident there'll be a large, relatively large amount of NHPP available for programming, but again, that's limited to the bridges that Greg described, and then the paving work on the arterials and the interstates for the most part, and maybe some exceptions in there. And then the bridge formula program funds, which primarily are for the state-owned bridges, correct, Greg? Primarily, but not
Similar-
exclusively.
Similar rule to NHPP has to be bridge on the regulated system.
Correct. And then, we're anticipating having HSIP be freed up throughout the course of the TIP because it's not being spent in other parts of the state. So we're feeling confident that we'll be able to access more HSIP perhaps down the road. But for programming purposes, we'll have to stick to the allocation amount.
And I'll qualify that with the exception of the 5th year. So since the STIP is 4 years and the TIP is 5,
Right.
when we run out of the 4-year amount of money, the idea is to park the construction in the 5th year. But if we're asked to spend more HSIP, which almost every year happens, if we have PSNEs ready, we'll pull it out of the 5th year and put it in the current year. That's the idea. So design could go as early as possible, get these designed. I know it's gonna look weird to have design the 1st year and construction in the 5th, but that's very strategic to be able to pull this in and benefit from others not spending it.
Greg, you specifically would like to speak to this Route 4 bridge project because of the high cost?
Yeah, we put that in as an application to, I guess, we know we're putting in more than is available. We like to see how it ranks. Get the awareness that it's a priority of ours someday. Without showing the cards too much, it's probably not. We recognize this won't fit in the core funding, but we'd like to see how it ranks. That way, if we ever find main office or discretionary other funding, everyone's aware that it's on our radar. I'd say in the 10-year horizon. We recognize this won't make it a 5-year core program.
Could you do it as a change order to Livingston Avenue Bridge?
Sure.
No one will
Why
notice.
not? Surrounding area.
Right, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Yeah, 10 there. Sandy,
But no, that's the idea.
I don't know if it's just a tip committee thing that we get together or not, but, if at the next meeting, just get a minor description of what led to the discrepancy in score, and how that, it worked out, because you have a DOT bridge over 787, that's at almost 80 on the score, and then this one's a 14, so I just didn't know what the factor was that led to just
Yeah.
seeing it.
For the bridge projects, the majority of the score comes from the benefit cost ratio. So in that case, because the cost is
It's
92
just the
million,
cost.
it had a high benefit and it had a high cost, so the benefit cost ratio was lower. It was
Okay.
probably somewhere in the 5 to 10 range, whereas the higher scoring bridges might have been, in the 50-ish range in terms of benefit cost, just to do a lower annualized cost.
Yeah, if you close 787 over Little River, for those that don't know, it's right in the vicinity of the, I guess Ward's Lane, the 86 in the hands. If you close that, the benefits are enormous of the user delays. So $7 million at the denominator, huge benefit. But the 92 million is the denominator. You get a lot more benefit.
Okay.
And one more thing I'd like to add, so now that all of the roll-ins have been approved, something else we can bring to the next meeting is the total roll-in by sponsor for all of the existing projects. So you can use that for your consideration when selecting new projects. There might be some sponsors that are rolling in a lot of federal aid. And they have a lot of existing projects. They might say, well, maybe we skip over them in the list and give the project to someone who doesn't have anything rolling in instead. So we can prepare that for the January 29th meeting if you'd like us to.
Yes.
Yeah, that's before. And that's, I didn't put in anything, I've said that before, but that's the reason, the city of Schenectady wasn't here. We didn't put anything on to here, because we didn't want to additionally compete or act like we weren't grateful for trying to complete the projects that we have.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll prepare that and we'll bring it.
So with that, again, we just provided, publicly, obviously, the fact sheets. So if you're interested to seeing the benefit side of the equation, and then you can see how the cost kind of impacted the score, you'll be able to see that in the fact sheets.
That was in there, Sandy?
It was part of the packet, but it's available on the planning committee, webpage. We're gonna have a separate webpage, that will develop for public review when we get to it. We'll have all similar information more than likely. And I think, unless I'm missing anything, that is all we have today for the existing tip and the new tip build. Did anybody have any questions? Were we not clear on anything, or are you sitting here utterly confused?
Yes.
We do appreciate all the collaboration with all the sponsors and the quick response to our request for information. We're looking forward to continuing to keep the communication going. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to give you and Greg and your staff credit, because you came up with the fund source thing you did, is John, I tried it. To try to find fund sources to limit the impact of, I know the city is eligible for SDPP and things like that, but the carbon reduction, the NHP, the BF, the work that you did to try to make sure that there was enough flexible money. I think that's great. So I think we're gonna see it. So
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. Well, like I said, we'll continue to research if there's other opportunities to change a fund source because it makes sense in that situation. We'll try to do that as well.
Thank you, Sandy. Discussion items that we're moving to, UPWP. Sandy, that's you.
That is me. Okay. Let's see if I can get this to project. So just a quick update on where we're at with the UPWP, which we'll be bringing a draft for you folks to review and approve at our next meeting in January. As a reminder, this is the document that on an annual basis describes all the planning work we're going to be doing here at the council, either through our staff, through consultants, through other initiatives. We will bring it to you at the end of the month. We'll spend the month of February doing public review on that, and then we'll bring it to the policy board for approval on March 6th. We did have a solicitation, you may recall, while we were also dealing with all this tip stuff. We did get 3 requests for funding. Albany County submitted for an ADA transition plan project. The Village of Boston Spa submitted for what we call a traffic calming master plan. And then the city of Saratoga Springs submitted for West Avenue corridor study. We believe we have the funding to fit all 3 of these in. So at this point, we'll be making that recommendation at our next meeting and folding these into the UPWP. In addition to that, we may be partnering with Albany County on some complete streets planning work that we're still trying to figure out a scope and the details on. That will likely go into the UPWP. And just a few other things in terms of what the framework of the UPWP is going to look like. As you know, we're finishing up our regional transportation plan update for emotion. So that will be a work task. We're obviously finishing the tip. And our Capital Region Vision Zero Safety Action Plan. Those would still be our top 3 priorities for 2025. Completing the backlog of our 8 linkage studies, some of which will hopefully be completed in the first part of 2025. The rest should be completed the second half. That will be our priority. I mentioned the household travel survey and the expansion of our regional travel demand model. That's gonna be a multi-year effort. It will require a lot of work on our staff, but we're excited about this opportunity to strengthen our regional travel demand model to meet the broader region's needs at this point and to help out our friends up at the Adirondack Glens Falls FPO. We're also planning on, we've had it in our work plan for a while, but we're gonna tackle these this year. The carbon reduction strategy development and development of a resilience plan. The State Department of Transportation already developed a statewide carbon reduction strategy that we'll use as a framework for ours. My understanding is the department's also working on a resilience plan statewide. So we're gonna kind of piggyback on that a little bit, to see how we can tailor that to our region. That plan specifically would hopefully identify locations like our Western Avenue in front of Stuyvesant Plaza location, that floods on a regular basis, and any other locations like that either experience frequent flooding or other issues of resiliency. So that's what that plan will focus on. As part of our TIP and our in-motion activities, we're gonna update our environmental justice and Title VI analysis following those documents. Congestion management process, Andrew has some next steps he'd like to pursue, and then we have this proposal on the table for the consultant work, so we're definitely gonna be working on refreshing data and collaborating there. The overdimension truck planning technical assistance project, we're kind of partnering with DOT on what the next steps might be there, but we want to make sure we have some money set aside in our UPWP to perhaps support that work, whatever it's going to look like. And then with CDRPC, partnering on some sort of housing planning effort for the region. We've talked about housing a lot. There's affordability issues, location issues. So we'd like to kind of start getting involved a little bit in this housing planning topic on a regional level. So those will be some of the proposals that you'll see in the UPWP.
Thank you, Sandy. Any questions? A lot of work, busy year ahead.
Yes.
You have a summary of admin modifications. Did it think of that?
So these are a different list.
Okay.
Just to totally confuse you guys.
Alright.
So while we were collecting all the data on projects, because we haven't met since back in November, this group, there have been some changes made to the TIP that were done through our normal admin mod process. So you can see the dates of action, some of which go all the way back to early November. So this is just for information purposes. These changes have already been made in the TIP. But we just wanted to, again, for transparency purposes, show you, because there are some cost increases that, again, that don't meet our thresholds, but with our new threshold minimum for cost increases being $500,000, with each little change, it can have roll-up impacts. So that's why we share this for transparency purposes.
Hey Sandy, can you reshare the screen, please? It stopped sharing.
All right, I don't know what's going on with the glitching. I apologize, folks. I'm not touching it, but
Okay, we're back. Thanks.
thank you.
So this is in addition to the one,
This is in addition to the ones we acted on earlier.
they would have been on that list except for
Timing and
timing.
These are mostly projects that we're going for authorization right now. We're very soon, so we just wanted to get them where they need to be for that.
Transfer.
Pretty minor.
Yep. That's just for information purposes.
So, all right, any questions? Move along. ISDOT project delivery.
Yeah.
Right,
I didn't bring anything, but real quick, I'll just touch on recent and upcoming bids. Finally, we bid 146 over to Normanville. The bids came in about 8.8 million, which was finally below an engineer's estimate by a little bit. I don't know if we're overinflating our estimates now, but either way, that's finally seeing some normalization prices. Route 146, the Route 146 corridor in Clifton Park at Route 9 and Clifton Country Road lets tomorrow. So we have good bids on that project for safety enhancements. And then 9W over the CSX Railroad is, knock on wood, letting in February, pending the railroad agreement is the last piece, which I can say is close. So hopefully that holds the February letter. That's it, local, state projects.
Right, status of regional transportation plan, is that what you said?
Yep,
I'm sorry again, Sandy, but this screen stopped sharing.
yes, no, I actually do know it's not sure.
Okay. Okay,
Me reshare. Well, you should be seeing the slides now.
yeah, we're good. Thanks.
So I'll combine, or specifically the regional planning initiatives table. This again is posted on our website each month with the status of all the linkage studies. I just wanted to share, Central Avenue comes up a lot in terms of traffic concerns, land use. There's a survey that's gonna be open until January 10th. I'm just plugging it publicly here because we really do need to hear from folks. This is a pretty important corridor to our region. So if you want to access that survey, it's available again at colonycentralavstudy.org. So that you can inform that planning process and that linkage study. And then we also are going to be opening up in the town of Milton public review period for the final report with the draft recommendations for the town center linkage study. January 28th at the Milton Community Center. If you want more information on that one, you can go to the project website at milton-town-center-planning-update.squarespace.com. That's a mouthful. But these links are available on our website in the status of planning activities. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Sandy.
Question, going back, Sandy, one slide.
Sure.
So Central Avenue corridor study, how does a corridor study integrate with the $20 million of work that we just talked about? That you're gonna be paving preservation from Albany to Schenectady. So do you reach out to Colony and Niskayuna and these groups to see what improvements in the pavement that you would do? If there were anything to change, or are you working autonomously and you working autonomously?
We're
collaborating.
We have folks on this study, and hopefully some of the results can inform some of the scope of our role.
Okay, that's always fun, because I don't have to deal with it in the cities. We don't really have this with state. So,
And already we have contact with the town of Colony on some of their priorities on all of their pedestrian network connections we want to see, so we're working closely with them, trying to identify, is there any way to reduce the distance between pedestrian crossings? That's low hanging fruit. We can integrate it with a paving project.
Right.
Okay. No, we're trying to be much more aware and not just go pave and say, sorry.
That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sandy?
And
That's
then
it.
I'll
Then,
go to the
regional,
council
local,
updates, yeah.
regional, local planning updates. Transportation Council
So
would be,
really quickly, status of our in-motion plan. We have a task force meeting on January 16th at 3 p.m. here at the office. It's also virtual. To date, we just completed a scenario planning workshop, and there's been a summary of our effort from that provided to the task force members. Right now, we're working on modeling some scenarios. We won't have that for the 16th, but we hope to have that at the next meeting. We're probably going to go to monthly meetings from here on out because we're in the heart of actually building the plan now. We also are working to complete the needs assessment. We have a draft that we've been circulating for review and comment. The consultants are working on revising that. We also did a complimentary driver survey. This was actually initiated more through our transportation demand management initiative, where we were trying to get a sense from the public on what would help us to understand about their desire or their openness to mode shift, right? If you're a driver, what would it take for you to consider using a different mode of transportation? And are you open to that? And we had some interesting results that will contribute toward this. I think the simplest way to say it is 18% of the respondents were open if they had more information on using different modes than just driving alone. So that was a significant finding because 18% is, it's significant. So So we're gonna use that to help inform the long range plan, but that also means, a good chunk of the region's population, still wants to be driving alone, and hence the emphasis in the plan on operations and making sure things are safe. So we'll certainly have those themes, but it was an interesting complementary piece of data that will inform the long range plan. And our third public survey is now open. We're seeking information from folks to react to our vision statement as well as looking at trade-offs. So for example, we're asking folks, would you be willing to have more density in your neighborhood if you've got more restaurants and things within walking distance? Like, that's the kind of thing we're trying to get a sense of from folks. And then while you're all here today, since many of you work in town, city, village halls, we do have some flyers that we would love to get posted. These are QR codes that are on these flyers, go directly to the website for this. And they're not tied to the specific survey, so they can live on your bulletin boards if you have them. So I welcome you to take some with you today if you're willing to post in your whatever community boards you have. We're going to distribute these in Stewart's, get them posted up on Stewart's, different libraries, and maybe even Starbucks. I'm trying to think of places where a lot of us go that might see it and stand there. And if you read the headline, it says, "Happy with this region's transportation system." So our mental picture is you're waiting for your cup of coffee and you read that, like, well, I have an opinion. And then you look into the QR code and take whatever the survey or look at the information on the website. So that's our hope, to help increase the reach. Because I know sometimes there's concerns about we only hear from the same people. So how can we get to other places in the region? So that's our plan on that. Carrie's been working hard on the Vision Zero plan. There's a number of public workshops that have been going on in different parts of the region. The next one is scheduled for January 15th up in Saratoga Springs. Well, they'll be looking at a downtown block, kind of centered on Broadway, Lake Caroline, and Hodgman. If you know that area, many of us have been there where the bars and restaurant scene is, the shopping, what have you. So if you're interested in that, they'll be holding that workshop at Whitman Brewing Company on the 15th. And Carrie also worked hard with a consultant planning for places, as well as some other community partners on developing a complete street story map. I think the interesting thing for all of you is the cataloging of some existing complete streets projects and giving some first-person accounts of the benefits to their communities. And we're hoping to build upon this work as we have more examples to include. And this really is to celebrate the work that's been done in this area. Because there's been a lot of work done and a lot of communities have invested in these kinds of projects. And we hope to expand this maybe to other topics and have different maps for different purposes as well down the road. So just wanted to acknowledge that story map is available on our website. If you go to the programs, Safety Complete Streets section, the real link is too long. We'll try to find a short URL somehow to publicize this. We'll try to get a press release out on this sometime soon. And then the final thing I just wanted to mention, if I didn't already, is our MPO Association has a biannual conference. It's scheduled for Syracuse, May 13th and 14th. Usually state DOT sends representatives, but any of our members are welcome to attend. MPOs talk about different things that we're working on within New York State at this conference. We're also planning on bringing in outside folks from other states to talk about different transportation planning activities. We have a student poster session, which has been really helpful for the students at RPI and other schools in our state to show their work and the things that they're working on. So, consider the conference if you're interested in learning more about what the MPOs do. And with that.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
CDRPC, is Mark online?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple regional planning project updates. We continue to proceed apace with our regional comprehensive climate action plan. The next deliverable that we're excited about is a comprehensive update to the region's greenhouse gas inventory. It'll provide an interactive platform for analyzing greenhouse gas emissions, energy consumption, and costs at the town, village, and city level. users will be able to explore all those data by sector, and you'll be able to download PDFs or the raw data to help tell the story of your municipality. We also completed our regional broadband feasibility study. That study includes cost estimates to connect up either underserved or unserved addresses to fiber. And we'll be distributing that and sharing it with the counties and the ISPs. Couple grant programs you might be interested in for this group. The Northern Border Regional Commission excludes Albany County, unfortunately, but the NBRC's Catalyst Grant Program is going to be announced shortly, and that funds infrastructure projects, including transportation, wastewater, solid waste, outdoor recreation, telecommunications, really flexible grant program. And then a new grant program from the Northern Border Regional Commission this year is the Timber Transport Program, and that focuses on using primarily laminated wood products for vehicular and pedestrian bridges, waterfront transportation structures, rest stops, train stations, outdoor recreation facilities, signage, highway sound barriers, etc. So that's might be an opportunity to explore those two grant programs. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. CDTA.
Thank you. Not a ton of new business for this month. Our biggest news organizationally is that our CEO Carm retired as of his last day on December 31st. So Mike Collins has been named our interim CEO, and the board continues to search for a permanent replacement, which should be decided within the next couple of months. That being said, it's pretty much business as usual in terms of planning priorities and projects. We're looking to wrap up our transit development plan update in the next couple of months, with that being adopted actually in February. So we'll keep everyone posted on that. And then for the most part, we're focusing on our capital projects this year, like the Red Line upgrade, which is moving forward in Schenectady, as well as several other mid-sized infrastructure projects around the region. That's it for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice, that.
Right. For once, I don't have any major staffing changes to announce, so hopefully that holds for a little while. The upcoming, speaking of conferences, May 20th through 30th is the New York State Association of Transportation Engineers Conference, ISATE for short. And we are still looking for more technical presentations. We are going to offer some planning credits on top of PDHs. And I believe one more category of credits. Trying to get a mix, so it's not just PDHs for engineers. And so anyone that has presentation ideas, reach out to me and I'll send you the link to fill out a brief form that tells us the basics of your presentation. So please reach out if anyone wants to present in Saratoga, and it's in Saratoga Springs this year, end of May. And coming soon, I was hoping to announce it sooner, but I'm waiting, but stay tuned. There's a local roadway departure safety plan. Again, using safety money so that local highways can get after roadway departure as a safety issue. It's up there in the leading causes of injuries and fatalities. So upgrading signs, chevrons, pavement markings, cards, shards, the Myards on the side of the road, things of that nature qualify. When we have the official announcement, we'll bring it here. I'm hoping it's announced anytime. It's intended to come through the appeal process. It's not a state-driven solicitation. It's meant to be done at the table. And as we have more details, we'll let you know. But that's it for DOT.
Greg, Thruway Authority, anybody here?
Any updates today?
I have no updates for you at this time.
Great.
Albany County Airport.
So yeah, just news from the airport. Connor Haskin, who has been representing the airport here, has taken a new position. His last day at the airport is Friday of this week. So the airport is seeking a new airport planner, is my understanding, but that will also be replacing Connor on this committee at some point in the future. So at least for the next couple of meetings, we might not have a designee for the airport, but I just wanted to share that news.
Well, there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandy. Board. Albany Port.
A couple of updates we've mentioned before about the heavy on dock rail that, we've got funding for. That is in engineering and design right now with the expectation to go to bid, by or before spring. So that work is planned to be done in 2025. We're excited about that. In terms of maritime activity, we currently have a ship at the dock that's offloading the last of the land cable for the Champlain Hudson Power Express project, which is really cool to see and a cool connection with what's going on regionally and statewide. And also speaking of maritime, we do expect later this year some pretty major heavy lift cargo maritime activity from a regionally located manufacturer of goods that will go out to the world. We talked a lot about this, so we just thought it would be cool to mention. We expect to be chock full at the port later this year with that. And then I think we've mentioned, but I wanted to be sure that we've mentioned, we've completed the construction of the heavy lift span bridge between the Ports Current District and the expansion, and that's a pretty big milestone for that port's expansion, the 85-acre expansion south of the current district. We currently have competitive funding applications in for port infrastructure for that facility with NYSERDA currently. You're back on that. And then also completing another funding application related to that in the next week. So that will continue progress for that site moving forward. I think that's it, John. Thank you.
Thank you. Local government, anything someone wants to discuss or anything exciting?
If you haven't signed up for the Saratoga County Planning and Zoning Conference, make sure that you do by January 17th for your regular registration money. Otherwise, the fee goes up after that, and it will be on February 5th.
Note the upcoming meetings. We have next planning committee on January 29th, Sandy. The Regional Operations Safety Advisory Committee, January 16th. The other meetings that's what is it now?
That's it. We're busy with many things here. Yes.
Thank you for everybody.
I did want to mention and introduce, I forgot in our other updates, David Nelson has joined us as a new staff member. He comes to us from the New Mexico DOT. He's going to be helping us out with some of our modeling work that I mentioned and a few other activities here. So please welcome David.
All right, anything else? Have motion to adjourn? Second, Sharon again. Your employer will know you were here.
Sharon, Joe. Thank you, Joe.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.